And we ask for your forgiveness for letting it slip away from us. Help this group and all groups around the country to bring this country back to your perfect word, your perfect laws, and to do your will. And give us comfort and to know that all things are possible through your word, through your strength, and to help us to forever be faithful followers of your perfect word. And we ask this through Jesus Christ, the Lord and Son. Amen.
Pictures of colors. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody have a seat, and I want to thank each and every one of you for coming tonight. Go ahead.
That was Jan Ferrara, if you didn't know who she was. My name is Brian Holman, if you don't know who I am. I'm the chair of the Tea Party and your cruise director for the evening, if I find my little helper here. So, we've got a good program for you this evening. Our speaker is going to talk to us about sustainable development and property rights and so forth. We kind of held out the word Agenda 21 because people start seeing strange things when you say Agenda 21. We just wanted to keep it on the facts of what's going on there at this point. So we'll get to that in a little bit. I got a few things for you. We've got quite a few things in the back here. We've got some books back there. We've got some brand new, nice Gadsden flags for sale back there, $10 each. They look great on your wall or wherever you want to fly them. Coffee and Ben is back there. Coffee and Ben. We got some t-shirts.
He's not for sale, though.
All of a sudden back there.
It's not for sale.
And
No.
we got some t-shirts and some hats for sale, and we might even give away a few later. So, but you want to make sure you get one. Those are some great t-shirts. They're from our dump tank last year. And speaking of our dump tank last year, on the 4th of July last year, we had a dump tank over at Jackson City Park. This year, last year was a one-day deal, so we set up on the 3rd, and we did it on the 4th. This year, it's a two-day deal. So we're going to set up on the 3rd, have it on the 4th and the 5th, and then take it down the 5th. It's a great bunch of fun, and you get a whole, we had probably what? Well, we were doing it for $1 each.
Three balls for $1.
3 balls for $1. I think we grossed like $700. So we had like 700 kids mostly come through there and throw balls at whoever was in the tank, and we had kids in the tank, and they had a great time, and I was this big clown goofing off with them, having a great time. This year, I can be here on the 5th, but I can't be here on the 4th, and there's several more of us that can't be here on the 4th. So we really need to ask you guys, if you're available on the 4th, to try to step up and help us get this done. The kids had a great time. It was a nice little fundraiser to help us do what we're trying to do, and it would be very helpful if some folks could just jump up and take this one for us on the 4th. On the 5th, we'll have plenty of coverage. On the 3rd, we have plenty of coverage. Of course, we'd like to have you involved there too. So if you can help with that on the 4th, or can even consider it so we can contact you and talk to you about it later, I guess please talk to Jan at the end of the meeting, and we'll get you on the list. At least we can include you on the emails going back and forth as we start trying to put this together. We've got to make the decision pretty soon, but we still have some time left to make that decision. All right, what else we got going here? Why are we here? Because of the debt, right? That's how this whole thing started, the Tea Party said. But as we've grown and gotten better as a Tea Party, we find ourselves fighting not just the federal government, not just the Democrats, but we're working against a whole lot of people that are call themselves Republicans too, right? So when people try to say that the Tea Party is just a bunch of right-wing nut job Republicans, guess what? A lot of times we're working against the Republicans. So we're working for the principles of the Constitution, lowering the debt, and our mission statement. I can never find this. Who knows our mission statement off the top of it? I was going to go right into that.
Our mission is to attract, educate, organize, and mobilize fellow citizens to secure public policy consistent with fiscal responsibility, founding principles, and constitutionally limited government under God.
So yeah, so what was the debt on 9/11? Anybody know what the debt was on 9/11? I'll ask this, sir.
15 trillion.
15 trillion on 9/11. No,
about
9/11, 2001.
No. About 8.
It was 5.7 trillion. All right, when George Bush went into office, it was 5.7 trillion. The debt on 1/20/2009, you know what that date is?
Inauguration Day.
Inauguration Day. Who was inaugurated on 2009?
Obama.
What was the debt on that day?
9 trillion.
7?
$10.6 trillion.
So it doubled.
January 20th, 2013, somebody was inaugurated. Who was inaugurated?
Obama.
And how much was the debt then?
16 trillion.
16.4. What's the debt today?
A lot more.
17.5.
17.5. 17.5 trillion on the U.S. debt clock today. That's why we started this group, that's why we started this activity, and we'll continue to fight that, but we've got a lot of local efforts we're making too. Who wants to pay more taxes starting this fall? Nobody? Well, guess what? Your taxes are going to go up.
August and November.
August and November. In August, there's going to be, I believe, at least 3 tax increases on your ballot. What happens if we just go to the polls and ourselves vote against the tax increases? Taxes are going to go up, right? We're going to have a group of people that want to raise taxes to take a bunch of our money and give it to an unelected group of bureaucrats to dole out to whomever they want. Does that sound like a good idea?
Nope.
All right. They're also going to have probably $1 million campaign to sell it. Do you think our taxes are going to go up?
Sure.
Do you think we have the power to stop it?
Yes.
Yes.
I guarantee you we have the power to stop it. But if we just come to these meetings and we don't get involved between these meetings and the activities of stopping these taxes, they're going to go up. So I'm asking you to start thinking about this. We have a subgroup called No Mo Tax. We work together real hard for the use tax, against the use tax. The use tax was stopped. I think that was a fairly easy win, but we certainly get a lot of credit for it. We put together a group that went out and got out the word to our neighbors. We got it on the radio. We got the other point of view out there. And if we don't get the point of view out there, who's going to do it? Nobody, right? So that's another thing to tell your friends, unless they want their taxes to go up, it's probably time to get involved in stopping. So we have a group getting ready to start the campaign to stop those taxes. There's a fire tax. You probably have to maybe lay off of that one because, you know, we do like having firemen and like them to have equipment to put out our fires, right? But we'll have to study that one a little more. And is August also the sales tax for Missouri, for MoDOT? Is that August or November?
No, that's November.
That's November,
The
okay.
largest tax increase in the history of the state.
Yeah. Yeah, 4.225% to 5 points, well, no, to whatever
It's
that.
a 3/4
is.
cent
I
sales
don't
tax.
know. But it's a huge tax increase to get them another $534 million. I think there's some ways they could cut first before they start raising our taxes.
No, no, we want to be like Illinois.
So, we've got a lot of fights. Unfortunately, we're being reactive right now. We got to get to where we're being proactive, but we still have to fight these battles. Okay, so I ask you to start looking into being involved with the No-Mo Tax Group. They are meeting at 8:30, right, on Thursday. If you are interested in joining us for that meeting, please contact me after the meeting. Okay, and I'll try to remind you to tell whoever's got contact at the end of the meeting. Okay, let's see what else we got. Any new folks here tonight? If you are not on our email list, Barbie back there in the pretty white t-shirt has a sign-up list. If you're already on our email list, we got your information. We're not taking roll. We don't care. But if you're not on our email list, please be sure to sign up with her so that we can get our information to you on a daily basis. We send out a little daily news email and our events and everything, and local other events coming up. So be sure and get on that email list if you're not already on it. Also, the teapot back there, if you wouldn't mind, pass that teapot around. If you got a couple of bucks you can throw in it, we certainly can use the help. Every group needs money to affect its changes and so forth as we're trying to do, so we appreciate your help with that if you got a couple of bucks to spare. As far as what we do in general at the Tea Party, we have a weekly meeting on Thursdays at 6 o'clock. That is our organizational type board of directors meeting. We call it the steering committee. We invite you, if you're interested, to start taking part in that as well. It's at 6 o'clock on Thursdays. We're also looking to add an 11 o'clock in the morning meeting for the folks who work second shift. We got some folks that work second shift and thirds. And one of those meetings, hopefully you can make. The 11 o'clock meeting will probably be focused on membership to start with. And we're just getting ready to add that, so we're not going to do that this week. But I urge you to consider taking part in that too. Like I said, coming to this meeting is not going to take care of the problem. It's what we do between this meeting, it's what we do between the elections that is going to solve the problem in this country. So yeah, we've got the weekly meeting there, we've got no more tax, we've got the steering committee meetings. We do our meeting here once a month,
Where is the no tax meeting going to be at 8:30 in the morning?
8:30 in Jackson at my house.
Okay. Thank you.
And even if you don't have, if you think, oh, I can't do this, I can't put one other thing on our plate, I can tell you, your taxes are gonna go up. If we don't, it needs to be more than just the 4, 5, or 6 of us that are working on this. So please, if you can just give us, you know, a little bit of your time, even if it's not every week, we need help. So if you can't help us out physically, help us out financially. Get in touch with one of us.
Yeah, if you don't work to stop the tax, you're going to have to work to pay the tax, right? There you go. That's pretty good. You made that up. Okay, one of the other things we do is we stick a couple of these in our cars every month, and we, as we get out of the car at the Walmart or at the movie show or whatever, and our car next to us has a Republican sticker on it or a gas and flat sticker on it or President's enemy list sticker on it. We put this under their windshield wiper, so if you would take a couple of these and pass it around. I forgot to bring the other stack with me, but so we'll just get a few tonight, I'm sorry. That helps get the word out about what we're doing. We're trying to get more people involved, because if we don't get involved, everything's going to continue to go up tax-wise, regulation-wise, government's going to get bigger, and that means our paycheck's going to get smaller, and our freedom's going to get smaller. What else do I have to give you? Who attended a meeting of a local governing body this month? Who went to a county commission meeting? Who went to a city council meeting? Who went to a school board meeting? Okay. Some people got 5 hands up.
Esther goes to all kinds of meetings. She needs help.
We've been talking about this for right on 2 years now since we started this effort. More than 2 years now, it seems like. That, like I said, coming to this meeting is not going to take care of it. We've got to start working with our instituted government to train them to start looking at the things from whether a issue or a bill gives us more self-governance or less self-governance. So to that end, we have a nice little calendar here for you to put up on your refrigerator with all the interesting meetings coming up over the next month. Especially that last one is really interesting on the list. I'm sure you want to make sure you get to that one. But if you want to take one of those, pass it down. I urge you to attend at least one meeting. If you have any questions about how to get there, email us or email me from the website, and we'll help you get into the place. We'll even put you in touch with somebody that might be already going to it. But it only takes 2 or 3 people to really start to control what's happening at these local meetings. Believe it or not. And pretty soon you'll be sitting there and they'll make a decision on an issue or the discussion issue. They'll have a discussion on the issue, and they might even look over to you to see what you think about the issue, if they get used to you being there. So I urge you to start attending, at least pick one. Pick one thing that interests you, be it the school board, the county commission, the city council, planning and zoning, go green, you name it. I urge you to go at least one meeting a month and start going to that meeting. And if, better yet, if you let us know what's going on, we can help you coordinate with other people that are, oh, I'm supposed to be at the baseball game tonight.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. For sacrifice.
Yeah, trust me, this is not fun. I'd rather be at the baseball game than doing this right now, believe it or not.
Thank you.
But commitment is what makes the change.
Thank you.
Let's see. And finally, the last piece of paper that I don't get to hand out, but I just get to show you, is we are having a gun raffle. $5 a ticket, a Mossberg 500 12-gauge shotgun. It's got some blue in it. got, I believe, 3 barrels, possibly a pistol grip. At least half the ads I looked at said they had pistol grip. Some of you gun enthusiasts would know better than I do. But if you would like to buy one of these, they're $5, and we are going to sell, I believe, 150 tickets. And let me give those.
Do you want to reveal what everyone missed out on?
Oh, yeah. What was it?
Had anyone sat in the front row, you would have had the first free ticket
Give it away. Which one?
we were giving away.
The choice
Yeah.
seats
see?
are not on the back of the church.
And I tried to get everybody to sit on the front row, and not someone would come in the front row. But anyway, so I guess no one gets the first
That's
free.
it?
That's it.
Oh, okay.
All right. I tried. I was gonna shove my husband up there on the front row, but.
All right. What else do we got to talk? We got a 50-50 drawing going on tonight. If you haven't got your tickets for that, jump in. Who has the 50-50 tickets?
Anybody else
I
want
got the
50/50 tickets? Raise your hand, I'll come to you.
Sign up sheet.
$1 a piece or 5 for $65.
Anyone wants to know any more about that particular shotgun, it's a real nice shotgun. It's a multi-purpose gun. I'll be happy to explain it and spec it for you.
All right, and 2 more things. After the meeting tonight, and typically almost every month, we go over to Beef O'Brady's for a little bit of fellowship and adult beverages if you're so inclined, and some food. So I want to invite you to come on over there tonight if you're available. Come on over, and we'll shoot the breeze and continue to talk about this and what we're here tonight. And then finally, 7 members of the Center for the Tea Party leadership have graduated from the Center for Self-Governance. And I urge you to consider taking at least level 1 and 2 of the Center for Self-Governance training program. There are lobbyists for everything but citizens. There are lobbyists for River Smelt, there's lobbyists for Budweiser, there's lobbyists for libraries, there's lobbyists for chair sales, there's lobbyists for carpet sales, there's lobbyists for everybody but us. And what the Center for Self-Governance
Here's Mary's
teaches you
change.
is the ability to become a citizen lobbyist, the ability to guide and control instituted government by knowing what they're doing, by understanding what goes on there, but by understanding why it goes in there, and learning the tools of the trade to be able to control instituted government. Plus, it completely flips around the way we do things. Right now, for the most part, we get an issue, right? We need help, we don't know anything, we get training, we don't have enough people, we get teams. We go out and they recruit more people. We turn this all around with the Center for Self-Governance, start with recruiting, get the training, build a team, and then go out on missions. When you're on these missions, you're on this mission for no use tax. We kept reminding ourselves, this is just a mission. It doesn't matter if we win or lose. It's just a mission. There'll be another mission after that. There'll be some that we win, there'll be some that we lose.
But we won that too.
We won that one. We didn't win everything. We didn't win technically in the school board races.
Nope.
But we also know that we voted them out, technically.
But we got more votes
We
too.
got more votes against the incumbents than we did for the incumbents. And that's a step in the right direction.
3 times as many people showed up for their last school board election as in the previous year.
So, this training changes the way you think about government, changes the way you think about the consent of the government, and it changes the way you look at what you can do as a citizen to control instituted government, and it makes you realize that voting ain't gonna get it done. So, I urge you to consider taking that training. Originally it was called the Tennessee Center for Self-Governance, now it's Center for Self-Governance. We have flyers and information on that. If you want a flyer, Jan probably has some. If you raise your hand, we'll have one right now, because that's good.
We have groups in 37 states at present.
There are people, requests in 37 states, I think we're training in 14.
Okay.
We have a level 1 training on June 14th. And, you got one already. Anybody else want a flyer? June 14th on it, but you will get in touch with me. My email's on the bottom there, and I will get in touch with you personally. All right, anybody else? Good.
All right, anything else that I missed before we move on to our speaker? Janet, we're going to do a swearing in ceremony. You're going to have to raise your left hand. Okay, our speaker tonight, Ike to his friends and fellow patriots, founded Missourians Against Agenda 21 in January of last year with the intent of educating and spreading the word about the hazards of United Nations Agenda 21. He's a locksmith by trade. Our speaker is chairman of the Lebanon Tea Party, and he frequently testifies at hearings in Jefferson City, espousing liberty and advancing conservative principles and ideas. Recently, I coordinated the efforts in Missouri to repeal the Department of Interior's designation of the nearly 18 million acres in Arkansas, Missouri, known as the White River Watershed National Blueway. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. You got a nice crowd here. It's good to see a lot of folks show up that are concerned about what's going on in their world. And I believe one of the first steps that we have to do is educate ourselves and prepare ourselves for what is out there so that we can properly work to defeat it. Let me find my little advancer here. I know I had it. There it is. So I have been involved in the movement, the Tea Party movement, for some time, and if you've all been involved for a little while, it's kind of like whack-a-mole. You know, you're not quite sure what topic to go see next. It seems like we're really putting out fires a lot of times. Brian mentioned about the fact that it's time for us to be proactive instead of reactive, and I absolutely agree with that 100%. So I'm glad that you guys are getting together and trying to do some things. He mentioned a bit ago about the tax increase, the largest in state history, and we have nearly a veto-proof majority of Republicans in the House and a veto-proof majority in the Senate. What do you think about that? Yeah. And not only that, they tried to advance early voting. But that's a different issue. We can talk about a lot of those things for some time. So I decided in January I really needed to focus on something, and I've looked at Agenda 21 a little bit and sustainable development, and found that it was going to be not only a monumental task to take it on, but if we do not pay attention to what's happening with Agenda 21, you're going to see life change for your grandchildren and your children, your grandchildren, to a point that might be irreversible. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit later. You know, America was set up with a couple of different principles, and one of those principles was private property ownership. As a matter of fact, if you think about history, private property ownership in America is about the first time that really ever really came about in the history of the world. Almost everything was owned by a king or an emperor or something of that nature, and only by their good graces were you allowed to live on it, work it, or whatever the case might be. And if that king wanted to come and take it away from you because he was no longer happy with what you were doing, then that's exactly what it would do. Well, and that's part of what brought our founders to America. They had the opportunity to set things up a little bit differently here. They did an awful lot of studying of past types of governmental controls, and they realized that private property ownership would be one of the things that would make an individual free. If you were able to have a little bit of land, you could raise a crop, raise your family, raise some chickens, cows, what have you, and pretty much sustain yourself and be free and enjoy life like God meant for us to do. So America is absolutely unique in its private property ownership. Even if how many people have been to Europe? Probably a few of you. There's very few people actually that own the property in Europe. And I would maybe encourage you to try to go to Germany, let's say, or England, and buy a piece of land and see what that costs you. I've had some folks tell me, well, you can go down to Argentina and buy property, or Mexico. Yeah, you probably can. But find out what happens when you want to do something that you want to do on that property, and you'll find out real quick that the government owns it more quickly than you do. Of course, in America, especially in the state of Missouri, we have taxes on our property, so don't pay your taxes and find out who owns that property. But so therefore, so Agenda 21 and property rights is very, very important. Who in here knows what Agenda 21 is? I mean, really knows what Agenda 21 is. Some of you just kind of touched it a little bit. How many of y'all just kind of touched on it? Because the reason I ask these questions is I want to find out where you kind of are and where I need to go with this presentation. It sounds like we're probably going to go ahead and start from the very basics, and we'll get along a little later as we go along. That way, I just have a belief that before you can go out and fight something, that you have to know what it is, you have to know where it came from, and you have to know the people that are steering it and why they're doing what they do. So imagine if you read that. Who here is a climate change denier? right? I'm a climate change denier too, and this is one of the problems, you know, once they keep talking about climate change long enough, when we start speaking out against it, we're raiding lunatics, aren't we? And that's exactly what's happening to us today. So let's go ahead and start with Agenda 21 and where it kind of came from and where it's going and sustainable development. We know about the United Nations system was really set up, if you know a bit about its history, it was kind of set up with the idea of stopping future wars. The idea was that individual countries wouldn't have their own armies and so forth or anything really large, and the United Nations would pretty much have all the weaponry systems and the soldiers, and then they would be able to handle any little conflicts around the world.
Yeah.
But we found out immediately after World War II that wasn't going to work, and the Cold War and all these other things. So the United Nations really kind of moved away from its first original conception to something a little more, well, I'm going to use the word insidious, because in their preamble it says to employ international machinery for the promotion of economic and social advancement of all people. Now, when you think about the United Nations, is that the first thing you think of? Especially if you think
But
about
it sounds good.
it sounds good, but what I want to know is what is international machinery?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to find out a little bit about international machinery as we go along. There are a group of folks out there that would really like to see this world kind of governed by just a smaller group of people.
One world.
And there is absolutely a movement for one world governance, and there's a big importance between government and governance. You see, government, Americans probably would not submit to a one world government, that is, the United Nations being the leader of all the world. However, we will willingly go along and even help in global governance, because that global governance is just a set of rules that other countries are supposed to follow along with us, and if they sound good and they look kind of good, we will unwittingly follow along with it, not even really knowing where the end result is. But I assure you there is an end result to everything that's going on in this world, and there are definitely very large, powerful people that are trying to ensure that their outcome is what winds up happening. So they couldn't use the United Nations as they first set it up, so they tacked on to the environment movement, the environmentalist movement. Some of you might remember that back in the 70s, 60s, and 70s. And who remembers the Indian wandering around on the TV with all the garbage in the background and the tear coming out of his eye?
Yeah.
I don't know the message, but I remember the picture, right? And that was some of the first trappings we saw about environmentalism. But we have to be very, very careful when we talk about environment, because there really were some serious problems at one time, weren't there? Are we familiar with Love Canal? Are we familiar with some acid rain? Some people say that was made up, I don't know, but smog in LA. And anybody grew up around St. Louis? Do you remember the smell of the Monsanto plant when you went down there? I'm 46, so when Mom would go up there and we would go up there, Grandma lived up there, you could just smell that place. It was kind of interesting. So there were some real problems that we needed to get looked into, but what we find out along the way is that when we get government the authority to regulate us, they just continue to regulate and regulate and regulate. There never seems to be enough. And I think that we're quite well past that time that enough is enough. So one of the big first movers and shakers in the environmentalist movement is the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. They were founded in 1948. They were the first global environmental organization. They are the leading authority on the environment and sustainable development, and they have official observer status at the United Nations General Assembly. Now what that means is that they can go sit in on any meetings that there are. They can't vote on anything, but they have people wandering all through the United Nations and through all of its different places, and they help create policy as it pertains to the environment. Anything that happens to the environment, the IUCN is a part of that through the United Nations. As a matter of fact, they are also the organization that determines what other organizations are going to be environmentally friendly with the United Nations, and then they get certified as United Nations environment folks. We'll find out why that's important here just a little bit later. The ICUN in America, there's 50 national non-government organizations. We'll talk about what NGOs are a little later. The LA Zoo, the Smithsonian Institute, Pew Charitable Trust. I just put a few up here that you would probably recognize. There are 28 international non-government organizations based in America. It's the National Geographic Society, Eco-Agricultural Partners. If you're involved in farming, I highly recommend that you look for that group. and start educating yourself about that group. And then the Sierra Club. At the state level, there are U.S. Department of State, Department of Commerce, Agriculture, Interior, National Park Service, United States Agency for International Development. Now, at first I didn't know why would the United States want to be involved with the International Union on Conservation of Nature. Well, for the most part, we probably wouldn't. But an awful lot of your bureaucracies are all intertwined in these things. That's why they want to be a part of this. And they find out that they also get a little bit of stature. Who's ever heard of the U.S. Agency for International Development? Did you know we had one? Brian has, a couple of you. If you see on TV where there's been great big tsunamis or some of these other natural disasters around the world, and you'll see these big, huge white bags of what's probably rice and other grain, and it says USAID, there it is, United States Agency for the International Development, and it is a part of the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. We then move along, and one thing you'll find out about the Agenda 21 and the environment movement is it's kind of like a layer cake. And the more you peel away those layers, you'll find out what's under it. So we're starting here at the bottom, and we're going to work our way up to where we are today. So some of these other things that we talk about are vitally important. One of those being the Ramsar Treaty. It was came up with in 1971 with the idea of the global preservation of wetlands. Yeah. Now this is a very, very big deal right now. In the 70s, I'm really not sure what they were worried about wetlands for, but this is what it came up with. They worked very closely with the IUCN. The United States signed on in April of 1987, and in America today, there are 34 locations with some 4,122,920 acres designated as wetlands. And there are some of them that are wetlands of international importance. Why is that important? First of all, why should we in America be concerned with whether England or Germany or France is concerned about our wetlands?
We shouldn't.
I really don't think we should. It's our country, we need to deal with what we have, right? Well, a lot of the deniers of these things try to say, well, none of that stuff is in America. Brian introduced me and he talked about the White River Watershed National Blueway. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But here is in Section 5 of the nomination document for the Blueway, and it actually states that there are globally important wetlands in Missouri and Arkansas. All right, now the CITES Treaty. We come along to the CITES Treaty. It's known as the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. It's adopted in 1963 by the IUCN, but it didn't really start gaining any traction until it came to America. And it's also known as the Washington Conference that was convened in 1972. It was signed on in 1974 and effective in 1975. And amazingly, the United States was its first signatory. Now, we really couldn't do anything with it. The treaty doesn't have any teeth. So what did we have to come up with? We came up with Public Law 93-205, or the Endangered Species Act. Yeah. Executive Order 11911, signed in 76. Nixon signed this treaty and signed the Endangered Species Act. Now, why is that a big problem? Who's heard of the smelt fish? How many years ago, let's say 10, 15 years ago, when you went to the grocery store, and especially in off-season when we weren't growing any food around here, you found a lot of good vegetables in there, didn't you? Good watermelons and cantaloupes and your cucumbers and your lettuce, and all these things were in pretty good shape, tasted pretty yummy, and when you looked at it, you found out that